Welcome to Blue Collar Startup, the podcast where we dive into real stories of everyday entrepreneurs and trade workers who are turning their blue-collar dreams into reality. Whether you're a student exploring the trades, growing your business, or just love hands-on work, this is the podcast for you. With a nationwide skilled labor shortage, we're here to explore the challenges, triumphs, and lessons learned from those who have built successful businesses from the ground up through integrity, grit, and hard work. From plumbing to carpentry, auto repair to landscaping, we cover it all. Get inspired, gain practical tips, and take the next step in your journey. So grab your tools, roll up your sleeves, and let's get to work.
Welcome back, everyone, to Blue Collar Startup. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Nelson from 5 Towers Media, joined today by
Derek Foster. Mike, how are you?
I'm well.
What's going on?
I don't even know, Derek. I'm fighting through the days right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I brought the nice weather back from
did.
Georgia with me.
You did. It is beautiful outside right now. I am actually, you can catch me every so often during the day right now, just standing out in my yard, soaking up sun, feeling the warmth.
Get that vitamin D.
Oh, man.
Makes a big difference.
I love it. Can't wait to be like more tan than I am right now. I'm getting red in the face already. That's everyone's like, yeah, are you going to get in the sun? I'm like, yeah, man, I just go outside.
You gotta get that first burn out of the way.
That's
it.
it.
And you're good.
I got
At least I am.
Lots of fencing to do this year on the farm, so I need to get my base.
There you go.
So, excellent. Should we introduce our guests?
Absolutely.
You want to keep catching up?
Go for it.
So we're joined by, and so Kendra, I have to tell you that I absolutely, and your last name's pretty easy.
It is.
But I'm going to let you introduce yourself because somehow I think I have a thing because I mess up everyone's name. I was on a podcast with a guy I've known for years. I know how to say his last name, still mess it up. So Kendra.
I still mess up my first name, so.
I know. I don't know what it is. I don't know. So Kendra, please introduce yourself, who you are, where we are, and what you guys do, please.
Kendra Hart, the president of Martin Electric here at our headquarters in East Greenbush. Thanks so much for having me. My first podcast, so very excited about it.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Appreciate you having us.
It's kind of our claim to fame too. Actually, we
A lot of people's first.
a lot of first timers. Yeah, they come on. It's fun.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to talk about. I was really excited once I saw this pop on the schedule and checked out your website. Really cool history behind the company. Mm-hmm. You guys are doing some great things. You're I would call it a large company, although, the classification would still have you as a small business, which I think is always hilarious. But it seems to me that you're a big business. So where should we start? Should we start with the history of the company?
Yeah, why not?
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Kendra, tell us about the history of your company because it's really cool. It's a cool story.
It is. So back in 1939, 85 years ago, George Martin started the business here in Albany. In 1955, my grandfather, Don Hart, started working in the shop as a material handler. He ended up working his way into the apprenticeship program, journeyman, electrician, became a foreman, and then moved into the office to start running jobs for George Martin and estimating. And they both really took a liking to each other, and with no heirs of his own, when George Martin was ready to retire, he asked my grandfather if he wanted to buy the business, and that was in 1975. At the time, work had slowed pretty significantly. The company had at one point over 100 electricians. Really, when they were doing the South Mall expansion and Albany was booming, but in 1975, work had slowed pretty considerably, and I think at the time maybe they had only about 10 electricians working for them at the time. So it was really a gamble for my grandfather to say, hey, in this climate, am I going to take the risk and buy this company? At the time, he had, I think, 6 children at the time, soon to be 7. And he ended up with my grandmother purchasing the company. And since 1975, it's been in our family.
That was Joan, right?
Joan was my grandmother. Yep.
Mm-hmm. They're super sweet in that video.
They are, and I got to give it to them. They set the best foundation for our company, the best building blocks. So my grandfather was out estimating, bidding jobs, generating new work. But what was really important is my grandmother was extremely fiscally conservative and just set a really great foundation from an accounting and finance standpoint. And I think that's the mistake a lot of startup businesses make that are on a quick growth trajectory is once the bookkeeping starts to get messy and you don't have that solid foundation of a payables process and a receivables process, and payroll, the business can quickly unwind and you can lose track of, especially in construction, right? Cash flow is super important. Cash is king. So she did a phenomenal job managing the finances. And that's really why when my father stepped into the business, he is a wheeler and dealer. He's super charismatic. He was really the one to be able to grow the business to where it's at through his personality and work ethic and everything. But it's because we had such a good foundation and standard operating procedures that my grandmother put in place that together we were able to continue to build a really great business. So
85 years.
Yeah.
That's a big number to put up on the board.
It is. And as the third generation, you wake up every day with, like, most third generation businesses fail, right? And it's like, so really that's the motivating factor for me to work really hard and persevere is be in the minority and make sure that all the hard work that my grandfather, my grandmother, and my father have put into the business wasn't for nothing, and to really make them proud. So it's a good motivator to have.
I was going to say, like, do you feel a lot of pressure because of that?
I do, but I thrive under pressure.
Okay, that's fair.
That's where I do the best. And I always say, like, when business is going really well, is not the best version of me. It's when there's a crisis or when there's a problem, I love to jump into it. I love to solve problems and really kind of thrive in that.
That's interesting.
Chaos, but.
And the chaos, yeah. You love the chaos.
Yeah, I was originally in real estate, or thought I wanted to be in real estate development. It's such a long process with a lot of thought and design and iterations, and construction is different. You have to make decisions daily, almost hourly, and they may be the wrong decision, but it's better to make the decision and move on than continue to belabor something or think about it. And
any decision's better than no decision,
correct,
right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was actually just listening to the Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson episode that came out the other day, which now apparently is quite controversial. But he was talking about the fact of, like, having a plan, even if it's a bad plan, is better than not having a plan. Kind of along those lines, right? Like,
but you have to be, especially in construction, comfortable when the plan doesn't work out. Most construction plans fail or get diverted. So you have to be very flexible, agile, and really focus on what you have control over and not what you don't have control over, because there are so many different variables that make construction and building happen that a lot are out of your control. You can't control what another trade's doing. You can't control what the owner wants or the changes that they want to see happen, but really just continue to focus on what you can control. And that will make you not go crazy.
Fair enough. Good. Not going crazy sounds like a solid plan as well, right? I wanted to ask too. So, your grandmother took care of the books, but you, I think if I read correctly, right, you have a bachelor's degree in accounting.
I do.
And does that come into play for you?
Absolutely. And I do wish I had kind of done this in reverse. I went to Bentley University, got an accounting degree, again, thinking I was going to pursue real estate development more on the business side. Ended up kind of pivoting into the electrical construction industry, and then ended up going to Hudson Valley for more of my electrical courses, more of my technical courses at night. I wish I had flip-flopped it. I wish I had gone into the apprenticeship program to get my experience in the electrical trade and the technical experience, and had gone to Hudson Valley at night for accounting. That's one thing I wish I did a little bit differently. Also would have saved a ton of money. But it does help me. So a lot of, what I do now, I wear many hats, but one of the functions that I have is our job costing. And again, looking at our cash flow and whatnot. So that accounting background is very helpful.
Yeah. Now, I did not realize that you actually went to trade school as well.
So I just took a few courses in the ECM program at Hudson Valley. Okay. I don't necessarily have a degree, but, I think that's the great thing about Hudson Valley, too, is they have the certificate programs. They have the kind of ad hoc classes that you can take.
Blue collar college.
Yeah.
Did you have Jim Countryman as a teacher?
No, but I work in workforce development with him a lot, and he's great.
He's a good guy. Yeah. He's been on the show.
A long time ago. We got to get them back on.
And I encourage, like, we have to use our local resources that we have, and I encourage so many different young people to, like, pair your, whether it's your college education or your workforce experience with these certificate programs or these specialized classes. Because when you go to college in a 4-year degree, you don't necessarily know what you want to do. And it's not always applicable because you don't have the real world experience to apply to your theory-based learning that you're learning in college. So I really highly recommend the community colleges, especially Hudson Valley, because it's such a great school.
Yeah, we love them.
Yeah, absolutely. They do a great job over there.
I love how you like leaned in there. You're like, absolutely.
Yeah. No, they're good. And we actually have an upcoming show with them as well.
Yeah,
in the next
excited
couple of
about
weeks.
that.
So
With Derek
Martin.
Thank you. Wow,
Nice, he's great.
Derek Martin. We're at Martin Electric. No relation.
No relation. No.
Just kismet. So, tell us a little bit about the business now. So you told us about the history, which again, that's the 2-minute version of it. I would, anyone that wants to hear a cool story, they got a great video. It was a well done video, by the way.
Thank you.
On their website, and check them out. What's the website again?
www.martinelectric.com.
martinelectric.com. Go check that out. Learn more about the company. I thought it's a great website. Video was great, very informative. A lot of cool stuff on there.
Yeah, we still have a lot of old timers been with us, many, many decades. So we have a really rich history that we're really excited to start to share. We recently brought on a marketing manager, so she's been great at sharing our story because we have always done really great things and community-oriented, people-oriented, but we've never really shared it. So that's why I'm excited to be here to continue to share our story, and thanks for watching the video.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I didn't want to come here unprepared. And yes, marketing communication is very important. Very important. Can we talk about the wall behind you before we?
Sure.
So what's going on there? Is there? Is it just a great idea for decor, or is there any meeting there? Or?
Really more for decor, but our brand colors are the grays, greens, and oranges. But we wanted to introduce some more energetic and dynamic colors. So we brought in the high vis to kind of represent the safety culture here and, our high vis vest. And then we wanted to bring in the bright pink for our women-owned business status and the girl power that we have here at Martin Electric.
Nice. Yeah. Maybe Olivia will take our picture after in front of the hard hats, right? Would that be cool? Yeah. You guys can't see Olivia. She's over here lurking in the shadows. But So tell us a little bit about what's going on now. Scope, like size of the company, the kind of jobs that you're doing.
Yep. So we right now have roughly 125 employees. So about 100 electricians working in the field every day out on our projects, and then another 25 here in our corporate office supporting our teams. So that could be anywhere from warehousing and logistics to estimating and project management to, accounting, payroll, human resources, and marketing. We specialize in the industrial and commercial spaces. And our reach is really within a 60-mile radius of Albany, although our low voltage, our communications and security company does kind of extend farther beyond the Albany market, so down to Orange County and kind of up to Plattsburgh and out to Syracuse is kind of our reach. But we do anything from, $500 projects to $30 million contracts, large programs. We don't do, we're not a residential service provider, so those smaller contracts are to support our larger partners and clients. But we've worked on some really great and exciting transformative projects here locally. We recently did the Plug Power manufacturing facility over in Slingerlands. Currently working on the NanoFab project over on the Nano campus for New York Creates. We've done a ton of work with Regeneron over the years since they really built out their business here in East Greenbush. So been a part of a lot of really cool projects. Also working on the Albany Airport project right now, which is exciting. So like I said, it's really exciting to be a part of so many transformative projects happening here in our communities that really improve the lives of all of us, right? Whether it's a place to work or a place to seek healthcare, or that's developing the latest and greatest, life sciences and drugs, or we did Rivers Casino, a place to have fun.
Yeah, I saw that on your site. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really cool to be a part of all of those projects. And as a kid, I remember driving by projects, and my dad would be we'd be driving by a project and be like, those are my lights. And now it's cool to be able to kind of get to do the same. I have a 1-year-old, and when she understands it a little bit better, I can't wait to take her past the projects and be like, we're like really a part of the community. We're a part of changing the landscape of how we all live and operate here. And it's just something very tangible, which is what I love about construction, and something to be really proud of. But
yeah, we hear that more like on a lot of shows from a lot of people that whether it's residential houses or big commercial, but it's like being able to drive around and see something that you built or were a part of building, and it's just there's that sense of pride.
Yeah, when I do try to do a lot of workforce development, and that's the one thing I always lean into is there's a lot of careers where you can sit behind a desk and at the end of the day not necessarily know what you accomplished or what value you created, and construction is totally different. Every day you can very clearly explain what you did and the value that you created.
Yeah, and that was what Alex from Munter Enterprises 2 weeks ago. We interviewed him, young kid, and he was saying the same thing. Like he really enjoys being able to see
an instant gratification. Seeing what you accomplished.
Yeah, whether it's the wall he built that day or whatever it was, but knowing that you accomplished something is, we don't always get that in different professions, so it's pretty sweet.
So Kendra, with a workforce that large, do you guys have a process for onboarding and training, an apprenticeship type program?
Yeah, so we are a union contractor.
Okay.
So we rely on our partners at the IBEW to provide us with the crew power for the jobs. Now we try to do our best to help them recruit and support them. So we've established what we'd call like a feeder program. So where we as a company are in the high schools, whether it's a BOCES program or just, our high schools locally or Hudson Valley's ECM program, to recruit people to come in to work in our warehouse. You don't need to be in the union to do that, but they'll do, a year to 2 years with us in the warehouse learning. There are so many different parts and pieces to the electrical industry. So it's really a great starting point for them to be able to, pick material, drive it out to the field, bring out equipment. What people don't understand is our success starts in the warehouse. If we don't have the right material, tools, and equipment out on the job sites, we have workers waiting to work, and our projects aren't successful. They're not coming in on budget, and they're not coming in on time. So that is really the main brain of our business. So starting folks in the warehouse with us is a great starting point. So we'll try to recruit people into the shop for a year to 2 years while we help them through the application, the apprenticeship application process, which typically takes about a year. So to apply to get into the apprenticeship program, you start with an application. You just go online, you submit your transcript with your application. You'll then be invited for an aptitude test. And if you score well enough on that aptitude test, then you're invited for an interview in front of a panel of union representatives and contractors. And then depending on how you score between the aptitude test and the interview will put you, you'll be ranked and placed, and depending on that class size, which can range anywhere from, they may take a new class in of 30 or they may take a new class in of 80. So if you fall within that, whatever size class they're taking in that year, you'll become a first-year apprentice, and they start in September with school. How the apprenticeship works, it's a 5-year program. Every other week you're in school for classroom-based training for 8 hours, and then outside of that, you're paired with a contractor for your practical experience. So
it's really cool.
Yeah.
What is just out of curiosity, what is the starting pay rate for that program?
So roughly, first-year apprentice is making about $20 an hour in their base, but they also have a great benefit package, which don't quote me, but it's somewhere in another $20 an hour in benefits. So that would be, health and welfare. That would be your training. And then eventually into your apprenticeship program, you're getting your pension and annuity and your retirement. So it's really great. It's you're paid to learn. You may go to college where you're paying the college to learn, but the apprenticeship program is you're getting your education paid for while you're also getting paid to work. It's really great.
Earn while you learn.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Right?
It's the name of the game these days.
I mean, why wouldn't you do that instead of dropping a couple $100,000?
Yeah, well, Alex from Munter Enterprises realized that. He went to Clemson University and decided it wasn't for him after the first year.
Yeah.
came back, and now he's getting paid to learn.
Yeah, one of our top general foremen, making great money, went to Southern Maine. Actually went to high school. I went to high school with Derek.
You told me that.
I told Mike that before.
And it was a private school, very against. I don't want to say against, but the trades weren't promoted. I remember it was a year we were graduating, and it was like the final assembly, and they made everybody going to a 4-year school stand up. And if you weren't going to a 4-year school, you had to remain seated. And I always think back to that. It's like, but if some of these seniors had thought of the trades and not gone to the 4-year school, I knew many kids in my class that made it 1 year, 2 years, and dropped out because school just wasn't for them. And one of my best friends is one of those guys who went to Southern Maine, and school just wasn't for them, and that ended up coming back to work with us in the shop, and he is wildly successful, a great superintendent that we have, extremely smart, but school wasn't for him.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody, and we try to talk about it on every episode because it's kind of one of the points of the podcast in general, but there's just so much opportunity in the trades, and that opportunity is only growing with 60% of the workforce aging out over the next 10 years, and you watch that supply of whatever industry, doesn't matter if it's electrical or general contractors or plumbers or whatever, but as you watch that supply go away, the demand's only going to increase, which means that anyone that's in the industries, in the trades, are going to have no want for work and no want for money from that standpoint. So it's crazy. Yeah,
and I think a misconception is that the trades are for people who aren't smart, and that's totally inaccurate. You do have to be strong and work with your hands, but you also have to work with your mind and be smart, or you'll blow yourself up, especially working as an electrician, right? So it's not for people. It's for people who are smart but don't learn in a traditional classroom setting. But it's not for people who didn't make it through high school because they were lazy or didn't have the work ethic or had a poor attitude. So that's, when I'm working with guidance counselors or teachers, it's, no, don't push the kids who have a bad attitude and are flunking out into a BOCES program or a trade school. We still need very smart, talented, hardworking individuals where just classroom learning isn't for them.
Yeah. Well, that's Alex. Again, we're going to keep talking about you, Alex. But, he was accepted into Clemson in their engineering program. Like, not a dumb kid,
one of the
obviously.
top engineering schools.
Right. Like, smart kid. And it's not that he didn't fail out of Clemson. He just decided it wasn't for him, and he decided to leave. And smart decision.
Yeah.
Still smart. Great job, Alex. So, I'm just curious, just to kind of bring it back to your role a little bit, because I do think, a lot of people I don't understand. I have 4 employees, right? You guys are hundreds of employees. So, or over 100 employees. What size team do you manage on a day-to-day basis?
So I would say about 20. We are, but we're trying to move toward a different structure, but very horizontally structured. But as you grow, that can become not so manageable. So we're trying to put a structure in place that makes sense, with some more senior level management, senior leadership team, and our middle managers and foremen and downstream. But really my role in the company is to make sure I have the right people in the right place doing the right thing at the right time. And it's one big puzzle because our projects are starting up, concluding at all different times, and it's just putting the right people on the right jobs, building a high-performing team with the resources you have, and it doesn't always line up the way you have it planned, so then every day you're just kind of pivoting, right? Who's going to go on what project? Who's going to lead this project? Because it makes sense for whether it's that scope or that client, kind of understanding your client's personality and your team's personality. So it's the hardest thing that I do. I think it's the hardest thing any employer does is try to put their teams together, and there is a real workforce shortage out there. There's only so many people, and there's only so many qualified people. So, one of my goals right now is to just try to create like a paint by numbers process that's standardized. So with the transient workforce that is out there, and the lack of workforce that's out there, just trying to make it as a step-by-step playbook for our team members. And I think when you do that, you can do more with less, But until you have that, you're just going to be feeling the burden of the workforce shortage.
And the chaos.
Yeah.
Do you currently offer any leadership training to your management staff and your site supers?
Yep. So I'd like to think we're one of the best contractors out there offering as much continual education and leadership training that's possible. But it's really what you make of it, right? I want people, I don't want to force training on anybody that's not going to not only appreciate it, but use it and then, apply it to what they're doing. But we do. One of the only contractors I know locally that sends our team members out to the National Electrical Contractors Conference. Most years, if we're not sending some team members out to the conference, we're doing a senior leadership retreat. We just did one in Lake Placid, which was a lot of fun. We brought our team members up there for a leadership retreat. And our HR director just got back from another leadership development retreat in Florida. So try to do a lot of that. That was one of the things when I first started as a kid, and even when I first started, I always went to the NECA conferences with my father every year. And early on, I was like, why are we here? This is for our frontline managers who are doing the work every day out in front of our customers or utilizing the tools that are on the trade show floor or the new materials. Like, we have to bring our people. It's great that we're here, but it's...
So he listened to you?
I didn't really let him. I just signed people up the next year.
Not even an option.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't love a good conference? Or is it just me? I love conferences. It's like every job I've had where we've done conferences, is one of my favorite things.
So the best part of conferences isn't the actual sessions that you sit in, but it's sitting with your peers and other contractors that aren't necessarily direct competitors and sharing stories, sharing solutions, understanding that we're all facing the same challenges. And that collaboration, I think, is the best.
Yeah, the best practices, for sure.
And there's always great speakers, too. Very motivational.
Some fun stuff. We used to go to SIMA, it's the Snow and Ice Management Association, and in June, typically, right? So it's, it's always a big joke, right? Because we're all snow removal people and going to SIMA in June. But it was always a great time. But the best part was, hanging out in the lobby with a company that you see a couple times a year, and you build relationships with them, and you get to hear about how they're tackling problems and the way that they're doing it, and they're not a competitor, so it's very easy to share.
Very open and transparent.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's great,
It's amazing. So I love that stuff, and that's actually where I found Sandler Training too. Originally was at one of those conferences. So, and that was life changing for me.
You never know what doors will be open.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. It's great stuff. And the happy hours are fun, too. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Just can't go overboard because 7 a.m. comes quick.
Yes. Yeah, no one wants to sit in a class all day with a head thumping. So what do you think? Oh, go ahead, Dee.
No, I was just going to say, what does a typical day look like for you, Kendra, from managing that many team members? How do you juggle it all?
So I used to be awful at it. When you wear many hats, you can very easily get distracted or, have a lot of context switching and lose efficiency there. So I've really tried to become better at time blocking. So blocking out time on my calendars for whether it is finance related, marketing related, recruitment related, project management, operations, warehousing. So I try to put at least a couple hours blocks for each of those kind of different disciplines on my calendar each week too. Whether it's just scrolling LinkedIn to see who's out there from a recruitment standpoint or reviewing a blog post or going to job meetings and staying on top of our jobs, doing our financial report. So that's been one thing that's really helped me. And then leaving that, most of the day open for whatever arises that day. Yeah. But you have to allow yourself too for I wasn't always good at working on the business and not in the business. So over the last couple of years, I've really tried to make a point to open up some time in the schedule to do, strategic planning and thinking ahead and not just working in the day-to-day of the business.
What does that look like for you, the strategic planning part?
Really, where do I want the business to go? Do I want to grow? Yes, because I'm young and dumb, and I still have the energy to do that, despite what every, old guy might say. I don't know why you're doing this, but what does that growth look like, right? It's very hard to grow organically. So does that look like an acquisition? And if it's an acquisition, is it, a geographical reach into other markets, or is it another service division? So recently, last year, we acquired a company, Control Network Communications, so that allowed us to expand our service offerings into communications and security. So that was really my first foray into an acquisition of another company, which is exciting. So looking at those different opportunities and a lot of organizational structure. Okay, if we're going to grow, how do we do it? How do we develop people from within? Because there's not a lot of people on the outside to do that. And you also want to work with people that you really like. So, I mean, there's a kind of have to put a governor on yourself sometimes of like, if you want to grow really quickly, where are you going to find the people to do it? And are you going to enjoy working with them? So I'd rather love what I do and do really good quality work that we can manage than be an elephant hunter and be the number one on the book of lists in the Albany Business Review. So while we want to grow, we want to do it we really want to do it sustainably and smart growth. And it's not about revenue for us. It's about enjoying what we do and the margins that we're making.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting to note too that you were talking earlier about changing some of your structure and making those changes. And I think any listeners, like, you're an 85-year-old company and you still find that you have to change structure and revamp process and
that's really hard.
Yeah.
Change is really hard, and you're going to go through some wavy times, and you just kind of got to hold on and trust the process. If you feel that it's the right move to make, you got to stay with it and not change course, because not everybody's going to be happy about it either when you change structure. And sometimes they'll stay on for the ride, and sometimes, they may go in a different direction, and that's okay. Being okay with people, their kind of season ending and going on somewhere else. But you also have to, innovation and business growth really comes from experimentation. And not all of those experiments are going to work, but you can't grow or innovate without trying, right?
Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's the exciting part, right? Like,
So how many of the original processes that your grandparents put in place are still being used today?
I think that would be kind of hard to quantify, but the fundamentals are still there. Pay our invoices within like 7 days of getting the invoice. Our controller who works in the front office is very principled in the front end job startup. So making sure we have all of our documentation and insurances and schedule values, and that we're not working on jobs without a contract, or we're not working on change orders without the proper documentation. So she's very principled in that, and she's good about holding people's feet to the fire. She's been with us 35 years or so. So she's been instrumental in working. She worked very closely with my grandmother, and so she's kind of still that piece that's here that brings that old school mentality and disciplined and principledness to our business, and we're really grateful to have her.
Like bridging the old with the new, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works well.
What do you think, and how long have you been?
10 years.
10 years? Mm-hmm. So in 10 years, what do you think, like, the biggest challenge that you've seen is?
The biggest challenge for me personally, and this may be an unpopular opinion, but you hear a lot about construction is a male-dominant industry. Women aren't given the same chances and opportunities as men, and that may be the experience for a lot of other women. It was not my experience, but I spent the whole first part of my career afraid at what other people are thinking of me and what the other men in the room might be thinking about me or judging me. And really, more or less, I was really embraced and welcomed into the industry and given that opportunity. So I wish I hadn't cared so much about what others thought, because it really held me back for a while. And to be honest, it was really over the last couple of years that I've really found confidence. And not that I don't care what other people think about me, but I don't let it hold me back. I just wake up every day, do the best that I can, and move on. And so from my experience, it's been a great industry to be a part of as a woman, as a young woman in construction. So my piece of advice for any young woman looking to enter any male-dominated industry is don't let that narrative out there of you're not going to be given the same chances or opportunities, or you're entering a male-dominated industry. Whether that's true or not, just don't let that hold you back, and just go out there and do the best you can every day. And yeah, even if you have to work harder, you should want to work harder. Whether you're a man or a woman, go out there and work your ass off, persevere, and do the best that you can, and you'll be successful.
Yeah, leave it all out in the field, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would you hold back?
Yeah.
So, as far as, and you kind of answered one of my questions, but so let me think about how to rephrase it. Well, how about the old, so we haven't actually asked this one in a while. Do you have any crazy morning routines? We used to ask this all the time. And then we stopped.
Yeah.
But
No, I have a 1-year-old now.
Ah,
so it usually
so you-
consists of hearing her cry and
Yes.
going in and waking her up. And it's like the best part of the day.
yeah.
That and coming home. So yeah, I used to go to the gym. I used to be a runner. Not so much anymore, but hopefully I'll get back to that.
You will. I mean, I have 4 kids, so I can tell you that it ebbs and flows.
I'm still waiting
you know?
for that day where I have the energy to like go out and run 6
Yeah.
miles or bike 60 miles. But
Once you're getting like a solid 3.5 hours of sleep a night, as opposed
Yeah.
to the 1.5 you're probably getting
Yeah.
with a 1-year-old.
I gotta be honest, she sleeps pretty good.
Really?
It's just my body's still not back to like the energy levels that it was at. Probably because I'm fueled on Pop-Tarts and Skittles and ginger ale is my diet, but
I can't imagine why you'd have low energy levels on that food.
I gotta work on that.
You got to work on that.
Yeah.
So, let me just check our time here and make sure we're not keeping you all day. So,
So I got, in the meantime, I got
Thanks,
one.
Derek.
Yeah, no problem. I'm here for
bail
you.
me out. My old man brain.
If you had one piece of advice that you could give to somebody that is a young person thinking about a career in the trades or even trying something new or getting out of their comfort zone, what would that be?
Just do it. Don't think about it too much. Take action. I hear of so many people thinking, well, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that in school for 6 years. Just, you have to take action. And when it comes to success, I think actually my husband was the one that kind of taught me this, is there's a graph and it's fear of failure, desire to achieve. So you got to have a low fear of failure and a high desire to achieve, and you'll be successful with that. So don't be afraid. Just go out there and do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Thanks, Nike.
I didn't make that up. Can't
We
take credit
borrowed
for
it
that.
for this occasion.
We shouted them out. It's okay.
Oh. I do have a few other questions I want to ask you, though. Tell me about your hiring process, because you talked about making sure that you're hiring you want to work with people that you enjoy being around, right? And that they have the skill set that you need them to have. So what does the hiring process look like for you?
So it really depends on the role, but we do our best to kind of do our due diligence out there, whether it's through our network of vendors and, other partners in the industry, or it's kind of on LinkedIn and we start to kind of curate a list of potential prospects. And then we'll bring them in usually for a first round of interviews and get to kind of know them on a personal level. And depending on how that goes, we may bring them back for a second round interview where whomever is going to be on their team, so whether it's the project manager or the estimator or the warehousing, they'll get to have a few different conversations with whomever they're going to be on a team with. So they can both ask each other questions and kind of I'm very biased from like a company culture standpoint. It's business is kind of my baby, so I may be biased, but it's an opportunity for them to be able to say, whether this is a place they love to work or hate to work, and that person who we're interviewing can make a decision whether they think they'd be a fit here. But it's hard. We've made a lot of poor choices before. It's really hard to tell until you just start
Same.
working with them. Had people ghost us.
We can relate.
It's
Yeah.
industry standard at this point. But I've also had really, really talented and smart people that worked with us that just the structure and the culture didn't make sense for them. some people need a playbook and that corporate structure of kind of what to do next and how to operate. We are still very much that, family-owned business where you really got to be a self-starter and be able to take initiative and thrive kind of in that environment, and that doesn't work for everybody.
I'm trying to think of the way to say it. Like, do you have a process for like figuring that out, or is it just to throw them into the fire and see if they?
No, I've actually talked with our HR director a lot about this. Is we've got to figure out a better interview process. Because to be honest, it's really just been, all right, that was a nice person, said they had, great talents and, a great resume and all these different certifications, and then we get them in and they don't always live up to what they said they could do. But I think, internally as a team, we've done the different kind of personality tests, 16 personalities, and the 6 types of working geniuses. So I don't know if there's something we should be incorporating into our interview process, and then doing more of a practical interview as well. So if somebody's coming in for estimating, have them do, a 2-hour practical to demonstrate their ability to estimate or utilize our estimating software. If we're hiring them for drafting or design, have them, do something in CAD for us. So I think we have to start incorporating both personality and practical interview tactics into our process. We could do better at that.
We could all do better at that.
Yeah.
Do you think that people overrepresent their skills sometimes? When they're
Yes,
coming in here?
but I get it. You're on an interview. We've all been guilty of it at one point, right?
Every time I see it, like we had one girl that we hired, and we solely hired her because on her resume it said that she was like basically ran her college newspaper, and we're like, oh shit, yeah, man, this is amazing. And then she was like, well, no, I wrote one article for the newspaper, and I was like, it says you ran it.
Yeah.
Like grossly overrepresented.
AI can really tailor those resumes
Wow,
nowadays.
man, it's crazy. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
So, Dee already asked you the big question. I guess, any other parting wisdom or any advice for people listening? Again, we're trying to inspire people. We're trying to break down some of the stigma like you talked about, right? Like to stand up if you want to go to college, or stay seated if you're a loser, like that's kind of what that says, right? And it's just not the case anymore, right? So, I mean, people make a lot of money in the trade. Yeah. So I guess, any parting thoughts as far as what you might tell those folks?
I think it all goes back to no matter where you are, it's a continual improvement process. Never stop learning. So whether you're a tradesperson or in a professional setting, continue to learn, because that'll open other doors for you. So as a tradesperson, maybe you're an installer, but maybe 15, 20 years of, installing conduit overhead and your body's not feeling it anymore. If you've taken those continual learning courses in either management, estimating, safety, there are other pathways and other doors that are open for you to transition and pivot maybe into an office or a more comfortable setting or something that's less demanding on your body. But if you don't put in that effort, those other doors may not be open. So just that continual improvement mindset is really important. Whether you're the employer or the employee, for both parties, it's really important.
You got to keep growing.
Yeah.
Other than your website,
Yeah.
where can people find you guys?
LinkedIn, Instagram. I don't know the handles.
Shout them out, Olivia.
Olivia's going to kill me for this.
Martin Electric _ 1939 or at Martin Electric.
Thank you.
I still love that the 1939 is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, such an accomplishment.
I got custom Nike shoes like with 1939 on the back, and I was thinking about the next like holiday party swag gift, but
I think you guys need like a trucker hat, but like a vintage trucker hat with 1939 on it. That would be cool. I would like one of those hats,
okay,
actually.
Olivia. Great idea.
Who does branding out there? Because I've tried to get a vintage logo. Nobody's.
I know a company.
We'll talk later.
We'll talk later. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. This was really fun.
Yeah, really appreciate it. I know that Taylor's going to throw it on the outro, but I always like to mention it anyway. Just want to say thanks to the people that make this podcast possible. Newest of them being Peopleese. Thanks, Nick. I actually saw Nick yesterday. Thanks for your support, guys. Bonaccio Construction. MLB Construction, of course. We got to get together with those guys soon. And last, certainly not least, Luke Michaels Group. Thanks so much, Luke, for the support. And then obviously Scott and Stacy over at Catamount Consulting. We're working on some more stuff with them and appreciate all the efforts and time that they put into helping us get in front of people. So thanks, everybody. And to our listeners, thanks so much for listening. You can check us out on the website, bluecollarstartup.io. And you can find us also on the social medias. I'm not sure what our handles are either.
Olivia, help.
I feel much better now.
Yeah, but we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, and I think that's all we are right now. So, but thanks for listening, everybody. Talk to you next week.
And that wraps up another episode of Blue Collar Startup. A big thank you to our sponsors, 5 Towers Media, Daigle Cleaning Systems, Daigle Fire Solutions, The Michaels Group, MLB Construction, Bonaccio Construction, Peopleese, and Catamount Consulting for making this podcast possible, and thank you for tuning in. If you learned something or felt inspired, connect with us on our website at bluecollarstartup.io or email us at hardhat.bcsu@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your questions and topic ideas. Help us spread the word by sharing the show and following us on social media for updates. Until next time, keep on building, keep on dreaming, and keep hustling like your future depends on it.